I was on the Los Angeles Police Department for 20 years. I was a sergeant of police when I retired. I'm well aware that there are officers within that agency that have biases and preconceived ideas. So no, I'm not surprised to know that somehow white supremacists have infiltrated the ranks of police departments around the nation.
Race and war. There is a conflict.
We're talking about a system, the phenomenal mass incarceration, the police killings. This is a recipe, many people argue, and I think it's true, for a new form of genocide.
The fact that it's always white people at the top and black people at the bottom, that's not some kind of psychic phenomena, that's policy. Those are the consequence of the race war against black people.
Are we in a race war?
All right, I have an opinion on that whole subject.
You know, there's no equality. We look at the system, it's really designed for us to fail.
Are you a white supremacist?
I'm absolutely not a white supremacist. I think that's a word that should be retired. I am a white advocate and a race realist.
When I say this as a police officer, that this stuff happens, I'm not telling the black community something they don't know. I'm just validating and corroborating what they know to be true because this is their lived experience.
A lot of people like to refer to our judicial system as broken. Our judicial system is not broken. It's operating exactly the way it was designed to operate.
This nation was established by Europeans with the idea that it was going to be an extension of Europe. So whites, whether they will admit it or not, don't like the fact that their neighborhoods, their institutions are becoming increasingly non-white.
White supremacy has to do with the idea that I'm better than you. And I can, through power, through manipulation, control anything and everything as it relates to anyone else. I am God.
Unapologetic, unadulterated, and uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the super fortress of intelligent black thought. This is the BlackChannel.net radio program, and I am, of course, your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. We will be taking telephone calls tonight, and the number to call is 646-787-1933. That is 646-787-1933, your personal access code to the Blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. You are, of course, welcome to join us. And join us, you shall, because on tonight's program here, I want to discuss a few things. First of all, we have begun our crowdfunding for our new documentary project, Race War. The trailer was released yesterday. You can go see it on YouTube. Just type in Race War official trailer. And it's gotten a lot of attention now, and I'm very glad to see that. It's gotten some white supremacist attention, believe it or not. I don't have a problem with that either. This documentary is going to get a lot of their attention because when you start doing things that show up on their radar in a big way, then of course you're going to get them responding to it. That's the way it works. And it is not about getting their attention. That's not my goal. I'm not doing this because I'm trying to, quote, get their attention. I'm doing this because I'm trying to get your attention. And when they see black people speaking to other black people, not about some metaphysical flim-flam, not about some spiritual psychobabble. See, if I came here talking the T.D. Jakes talk, I'd be all right with them. They would not have a problem with me if that was what I was talking about. If I was talking the Creflo Dollar stuff, they wouldn't have a problem with what I'm doing. But when you're talking about, hey, I want to talk to black people about this situation that we find ourselves in, all of a sudden that changes. That changes everything. All of a sudden. In white society, they understand how warfare is properly waged. And I want to talk about that tonight, and I want your telephone calls. If you're watching the Super Bowl tonight, and as a matter of fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and just open up the telephone lines now. I usually don't do this. I usually wait a while before I do this. But you know what? Let's just go ahead, start the program off right now, and open up the telephone lines. If you are watching the Super Bowl, or if you're not, give me a call and explain why you aren't, why you are, or why you are not. That's all we want you to do. The telephone number is on your screen, 646-787-1933. That is 646-787-1933, your personal access code to the blackchannel.net radio program. You can go ahead and give us a call and we can discuss that. Neely Fuller once said that white people have perfected the art of turning white supremacy and of turning work into fun for them. That is their recreation for them. That is recreation. That is amusement time. That is fun time for them. Practicing white supremacy is fun time to them. And this is a foreign concept to black people as a group today. Do you know where that really just comes from? That's really just a product of one thing. They are disciplined. Say it however you want to. White people have understood that their survival hinges upon their discipline. They haven't believed that their survival depends on their religiosity. They haven't believed that their survival depends upon their popularity. They haven't been conditioned to think that their survival depends upon their ability to get interracial sexual access. They understand that their survival is directly dictated by how disciplined they are. The more disciplined they are, the better able to survive they are. Let me tell you something here. I've talked, as for those of you who saw the Race War trailer, and if you haven't, where the hell have you been? But I talked to the premier white supremacist who calls himself a white advocate. As soon as you start talking to him, amazingly, all the white supremacist talking points come rolling down the hill. But I talked to him. You see, Jared Taylor is the white supremacist community sees Jared Taylor the way that all of us see Dr. John Henry Clark. They revere Jared Taylor the way that we revere Dr. Clark. Now think about that for a few moments. That this man is their intellectual godfather of their systematic belief system. That is what he is. And I talked to this man for an extended period of time. I talked to the premier white nationalist thought leader of our time. And there's something that you do learn when you speak to older people. Jared Taylor is almost 70 now. But there's something that you learn speaking to older people. And the one thing that you pick up from them is that they understand how important what they're doing is to them. They're not young and spry and can run a bunch of hurdles and things like that. They have to use their brains if they're using them. And what became very clear with him is how disciplined he is. Now, discipline isn't something that you encounter in your senior citizen years. It is the product of what you've been doing with your life the whole time. Jared Taylor began doing this as his vocation at about the age that most of you are now, in your 40s, at the age of 40. And most of us, he started doing it at the age most of us are at now. A lot of you are listening, you're in your 20s, so take note. And he understood. He understood that white people's very survival, these are the terms that he couches it in, that white people's very survival depends on their ability to give preferential treatment, to give preferential social treatment, preferential economic treatment, preferential political treatment to white people. He made it very clear that that was the foundation of everything he was saying and everything he believed. That white people have to give preferential treatment to white people. Totally unconcerned about what you call racism. He made it very clear that he doesn't even think that exists. And if you could find such a mythical creature, that is black people's fault. Now, how much of this he truly in his heart believes and how much of it he thinks is necessary to say for the benefit of his followers, that's up to you. But what is true is that he certainly wants that to be the accepted mentality, even if it's not factually true. If this is what I gotta say to get white people to protect white people's interests, then I'm gonna say that. And he has spent decades at this. He has not gotten rich from it. This is one of the biggest fallacies out there. Him and Richard Spencer, they become well known, but nobody can say they become wealthy at this. You don't get wealthy by it. Not directly, anyway. But they are disciplined. And that stone cold discipline that they're able to invoke, that is the real foundation that makes them believe they are superior to black people. Because they take a look at black people and they see a very undisciplined opposition. They see an opposition that is concerned about shoes, concerned about hairstyles, concerned about acceptance from white people, which is something that Jared Taylor makes very clear he is utterly unconcerned about. Utterly unconcerned. I want to ask you a very simple question right now. Well, actually, I want to ask you two very simple questions. Question number one. Do you truly believe that Jared Taylor's mentality, sentiments, his mindset speaks for the majority of white society, whether they would actually confess it or if they don't? Whether they're willing to actually come out and say it or whether they don't. Do you believe that he actually represents the prevailing mindset in white society? Do you truly believe that? Do you? If you don't, then racism doesn't exist and you can just carry on about your day. If you do, however, if you do believe that Jared Taylor actually does represent the majority of the disposition in white society towards black people and towards themselves, if you truly believe that, then I have one last question to ask you. If Colin Kaepernick were a white man, how do you think that white society would respond to him protesting some perceived injustice inflicted by black people? If Colin Kaepernick were a white man talking about reverse racism, how do you think white society would be responding to him? Now, did you notice what I did not say? Did you notice what I didn't say? I didn't say, how would the NFL respond to him? I said, how would white society respond to him? Regardless of whether or not the NFL took any sort of action against him or not. How would the rest of the society, if you were watching 12-year-old white children gunned down by black police officers, 17-year-old white children walking home with tea and Skittles murdered by black men and juries everywhere routinely letting them off for it. And you had a white man who took a stand against that. How do you believe white society would have responded to him? Very simple question I'm asking here. We're going to go ahead and see if we can take a telephone call here right now. Caller from 732, you're on live with the Black Channel.
What's going on, Jason? It's MD from Jersey.
MD from Jersey, what's on your mind, brother?
Yeah, bro, I heard one of your shows broadcast a few weeks ago. You were talking about the police pulled you over, and I think they searched your car. So the same thing happened to me. I was driving, and I got pulled over in D.C. by the gun unit, and they basically wanted to search my car. And I told them, nah, run my tags, my license, everything is going to come back straight. And they ran my stuff, everything was good. So they came back, they said, since you won't let us search your car, we're going to call the dogs. So I was like, there's no need for you to search my car, because I work for the feds. I'm not going to say who I work for, but I work for the feds. And but of course they didn't believe me. They're like, you have your ID and all this stuff. I was like, no, because, it's a liability for me to carry it. I'm going to play basketball, and if I lose, I got to go through a whole investigation. So the guy's like, well, I always carry my ID. So they call the dogs. The dogs come. The cop throws something against the car, and then the dog react. They say, oh, the dog says something, guns is in your car. They took my car for 6 days. They got a warrant. They searched it. Of course, they ain't find nothing. But, and by the way, it was 2 white cops, 1 black cop. So, I remember you were telling a similar story. So this stuff happens a lot of different. I think you were in Arizona, right?
Yes, this happens everywhere. This is not an isolated incident. This is something that happens all the time. Beyond just what happens to us, however, there's only really one question that we have to ask ourselves. Do we believe that they are in a race war against us? That's all we really have to ask. But you have to understand, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of this. At any moment, they could have pulled their guns on you for anything or everything. At any moment, they could have pulled their guns on you at all. How many videos have we seen now of white cops asking black males to get their ID, and as soon as you reach for your ID, put your hands where I can see them. He just said, get your ID. He's trying to gin up some excuse to shoot at you, as if he asked you to reach for your ID and you reached for something else. You did exactly what you were asked to do. They're trying to create situations. They're trying to create an incident where they can murder someone, because the problem that we have as black people is we don't seriously believe that these folks get together in groups and discuss killing us. That's the problem that we have, is that we really don't believe that's happening. You hear Jason Black talk about it, and you hear Neely Fuller talk about it, but you don't really believe that's what occurs. As people, black folk don't really believe that until the lights come up behind them, and then all of a sudden they're scrambling to figure out what to do. So no, that's not at all foreign territory at all. Are you watching the game tonight?
No watching the game.
Why?
But actually, it's funny you say that, because they asked me for my license, of course, and my wallet fell between the console and the driver's seat. So the black cop, I told him my license fell. So he said, you can get it. I said, nah. I got out the car. I said, you get it. So then he gets it, and then they asked me to get my registration. So my registration's in the glove box. At this point, I'm outside the car. So I go to the passenger side, get the registration. As I bend over, I see the white boy reaching for his midsection. So I look back. He's like, "Oh, it's just pepper spray." So I said, "Nah, go ahead. You get it out the glove box." You know what I'm saying? So now I'm looking into doing some, see what I can do as far as legally, because to take somebody's car for 6 days, there has to be some accountability for the dog, saying that there's guns in the car, and for you taking my car for 6 days.
Right.
Because if I didn't have resources and I needed to work somewhere and I had a wife and family and I worked 50 miles away, I could have lost my job.
Exactly.
I'm gonna call my job and tell them the police took my car because there's guns in my car.
Out of nowhere, that could have happened to you. Out of nowhere. But thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. This is the situation that we find ourselves in. Let me get caller from 228. You're on live with the Black Channel on Super Bowl or Super Bowl Sunday, whichever you prefer to call it. Are you watching the game tonight?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you and the kids.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you and the kids.
Oh. Sorry.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Sherry. I'm calling from Mississippi.
Hello, Sherry from Mississippi. What part of Mississippi?
The Gulf Coast.
Gulf Coast.
Goshen.
What was that?
Yes. Yeah, the Gulf Coast. That's Goshen.
Okay. And
like near Gulfport.
And what's on your mind?
I just wanted to say that you're an inspiration, and I just appreciate everything that you do, and that I've been listening to you like the past year. And I just kind of had a question as far as like, I know you always talk about how we need to branch off and have something of our own and everything like that. And I'm just wondering, like, as far as like with the postal service, like, do you feel like that's like a secure type job, or like, what do you think as far as, you know, like with a government type job?
Is it a secure job? Yes, it is. Was that all you wanted to find out? Was if it's a secure job?
Sir?
Was that all you wanted to find out? Was if it's a secure job?
Well, no, I had some other questions too. Okay. As far as with
well, let me try something a little bit different here, okay? We'll come back to that in a little bit. Let me get caller from 803. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're watching Netflix Narcos.
Hello?
By the way, if everybody wants to know what I'm referring to by undisciplined, this is exactly what I mean. This is the very definition of undisciplined. Caller, did you have something to say?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're on live. Are you here to waste our time, or did you have something to say?
My apologies, Jason.
What is your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Brian. I'm calling from Atlanta.
And what's on your mind, Brian?
My apologies. I'm sorry?
What's on your mind, sir? Quickly.
Yes, I'll be quick. But I wanted to say my apologies for what just happened. Normally when I call in, they ask you to press 1, and they didn't ask me to press 1 this time, so I didn't know I was in the queue. But I do have something to say. I would like to say that with the whole boycott NFL thing, a lot of people that are more, I guess, knowledgeable than most, they're not shea butters, they're not liberals, they're not integrationists. A lot of them have negative things to say about Kaepernick because he's biracial, and I just think that's silly. Because if someone is not black because they're half black, then that means that Malcolm X isn't black. Because his mother was half black, and if you can't be black unless you have two black parents, and a biracial person is not black, then a biracial person and a black person's child is black. So you just get really deep down the rabbit hole, and like you said, don't take up too much of your time, but let's just not find excuses to be silly and be haters and get on code about one thing.
Well, that's the problem that we have as black people. We actually look for excuses not to do the mature things that we need to do. White people turn their work activities and the stuff they need to do that becomes recreation. Black people, however, because number one, we don't have an elite class of resources. Number two, there is no punishment for betraying the interests of the group. We have the ability to focus on these silly things. So what we do is we create excuses not to deal with our problems. That's what we look for. We create excuses not to deal with it and not to focus on it, because everybody's trying to figure out how they can avoid it. If Kaepernick were a white man protesting black people, white society would be behind that. Now, notice I didn't say anything about the NFL. It would be irrelevant what the NFL had to say. White people as a group would be giving him a job, resources. He'd get an analyst job on Fox News or maybe even Fox Sports. He'd have a radio program. I mean, he would be like Rush Limbaugh. He'd have a radio program making $10 million a year. That's what he would have if Colin Kaepernick were a white man. That's what he would have. He would have the support of his society and the support of his people. And if he were married to a black woman, that'd be even better. That would be even better for them. They'd be like, see, he can't be racist. He has a black wife. That's what they would be saying. Yep. You see how all those pieces fell into place? That's discipline. That's discipline. That's what's really lacking. It's not just a lack of vision, it's a lack of discipline. Black people fight for stuff that doesn't matter. As Neely Fuller said, and I'm going to be quoting him a lot tonight apparently, black people have learned to take serious things silly and to take silly things seriously. Because we are scared of confronting the real world in front of us. We're scared of that thing. We're terrified of it. We want something else. But the truth of the matter is we're scared of it. As a group, black people are scared of reality, which is why we invoke and raise up all of these artificial constructs. So we go gender warring, we go religious warring, we go historical writing warring, we do everything except saying, okay, now how do we deal with this white supremacist situation in front of us? Because we know what needs to be done. Every black person in America already knows what needs to be done. They already know that the root of white supremacy's power is its economy. They know this, but they don't have an answer for that. So instead, they invoke intangible, imaginary answers to compensate for the literal, concrete answers that they don't actually have. I'll let you have the last word.
Yes, brother, I totally agree. And the two things I would say is a lot of these Sambos who are finding excuses to hate on Kaepernick, none of them are going to sacrifice their job with their white employer to do what Kaepernick did. And second, just to piggyback on what you said about black people being silly or serious, I'd like to hear you comment on the massive coonery and celebration around the movie Black Panther. And that's it. Black first, brother.
Well, I've already spoken about that in particular here. I don't have a problem with people seeing the movie of when you're sitting up here geeking out and whatnot over something that they brought to you. And yet I don't ever see the same level of enthusiasm for black productions or for what black people are doing. That's a problem. That's coonery. You want to know why China has the biggest movie industry in the world today? It is not simply because of their numbers. Black people worldwide have numbers that nearly rival China's, and yet black people do not have a cinema system the way Asians do. And it doesn't matter whether they're Asians in Asia or Asians in America. They look for their cinema. They look for their people. And they give preferential treatment to their people. I've told you all this before, that white society is not interested in competing. They're interested in winning. Briefly about football, you're talking about the Patriots. They've got a historic record of cheating to get to Super Bowls, but you don't see white society up in arms over it. They're not interested in, quote, competition. Their interest is in winning. By hook, by crook, by thievery, by chicanery. Their only interest is in winning. They're not here to prove who is the better man. They're not here to prove who the greatest is. They're not here to prove anything. They are here to get and control power, wealth, and resources. And the alleged competition is merely the mechanism by which they facilitate grabbing those resources. But they're not interested in a competition. The only way they want to enter a competition is if they already know the outcome. By the very definition, it cannot be competitive if you already know the outcome. They're not interested in competition. They are only interested in winning. And this is why, as Neely Fuller said again, I already warned you, white supremacists take both sides of an argument. It is so difficult to defeat them because no matter which way you go, they're already there. And black folk are lined up this Sunday to watch a football game with a league that has literally spit in your faces and said that you are 80% of our workforce, but your plight is irrelevant. Meanwhile, women comprise what? 5% of the NFL's viewership, maybe? And the NFL recognizes Breast Cancer Awareness Month. How much of that is relevant to the men of the NFL? Not much. So they're more concerned about the health of women's breasts than they are the health and the safety of their black football players. That's war. Yeah, there's a bit of logic you can't jump over there. That's war. When you're more concerned about women's breasts than you are about your black male athletes getting killed, that you'll go on a whole month about breast cancer awareness, but not about police brutality? Really? So you're against cancer, but you're not against police brutality. You're not against that. You're for healthy breasts, but not for healthy players, whether it's the police or whether it's concussions. You're utterly unconcerned. Now, a disciplined group of people would be taking this head on. You know, like the Latinos do about illegals being in the country. You'd be taking it head on if you were serious. And how white people do whenever it looks like black folk are getting too much power, wealth, and influence. You'd be taking that on if you were serious. That's what you would be doing. But it doesn't look serious because we're not serious. Let me get caller from 919. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Hey, Jason, this is Reggie. I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia. And I think I'm not watching the Super Bowl personally because I'm tired of the BS what's going on in our community. People seem to be blinded, or they don't want to talk about what's going on, or they rather not, talk about it like it's going to go away or something. But I do believe that we are the race war. Me personally, I was walking through Buckhead, out of all places, going to get me something to eat, and a guy pulled up and yelled a racial slur at me just Friday. So I got. Now you swimming now. Slow down.
Wait. Slow down. Now you said you were in Buckhead. Where about in Buckhead were you?
I work at Headmaster's Barbershop. I was walking to Kebab Land, which is like not even a tenth of a mile down from the barbershop.
Okay, now wait a minute. Wait. Slow down. For people who don't live there, though, the major landmark in Buckhead is Lenox Mall. So how far from that approximately were you?
Probably about a half a mile from. I could walk to Lenox Mall from my job.
For those of us who don't, for those who don't live in Atlanta, and I'm one of those people, I don't live there, but for those who are familiar with the area and whatnot, especially Buckhead, Lenox Mall is the major landmark. So for those of us who've been there, it gives us some idea of how far out you are. So basically, you were not very far at all. When you go to Lenox Mall, I mean, that's, for anybody who's been there, that's a majority black patronage, majority black workers there and whatnot. Nice big place and everything. But, I mean, we represent the majority of the people there. However, within half a mile of it, welcome back to the real world. What exactly did he say to you?
Verbatim. He caught me off guard. He was driving through traffic. Anybody that knows Atlanta and know Piedmont and Peachtree know it's a high amount of traffic right there. So he wasn't even visiting one of the restaurants or anything like that. He was in the street, and he yelled out verbatim, "You do not belong here, nigger." That's verbatim.
They're getting bold.
And you talking about earlier in one of your broadcasts, I was listening to one of your broadcasts earlier, and you was talking about how we getting caught flat-footed. Now, when you said that, that just reminded me. When I was just thinking about what had happened. I was like, I was in shock. I was completely caught flat-footed. I was not expecting it. I did not taunt anybody, you know, and that's another thing. When I came back to the barbershop, everybody was like, "What did you say to him? You know, what did you do to him? He must have been drunk." This guy wasn't drunk.
Wait a minute. I got some questions about that. Now, what time of day was this? First of all, what day of the week and what time of day?
Friday.
Okay.
About 3:30, 4 o'clock in p.m.
Okay.
Broad daylight.
Friday at 3:30 in the afternoon. So what does that immediately tell us right there? From where you are, Rush Limbaugh, that's right, Rush Limbaugh broadcast from 12 noon to 3 o'clock Atlanta time, East Coast time. He's on 12 noon to 3 o'clock. So if you encountered this gentleman, 30 minutes, this is why you have the Black Channel for this purpose, brother. We are the repository, the only think tank that is able to analyze events like that. If this man accosted you verbally like that at 3:30, he turned off Rush Limbaugh, or he didn't turn off Rush Limbaugh. They just go from Rush Limbaugh to Sean Hannity if you're lucky. If you're unlucky, it goes from Rush Limbaugh to a really hardcore Nazi like Michael Savage or Mark Levin, or worse, one of the local white radio hosts who really have to say a bunch of outrageous things to get any attention. But he probably he was probably just finished listening to them, or was still listening to them, talking about how black people are denying them things, talking about how President Trump is the greatest thing ever, build that wall, arrest all the Muslims, i.e. Negroes, we need more law enforcement, i.e. arrest and kill more black males. He's sitting there listening to that, and then he saw you. Now, you have to understand, Atlanta has not always been a majority black city. Black folk are basically new to that in the last 30 years, and we have taken it for granted that we have arrived and the battle is over. And I'm telling you is that black population in that city is going down. You very, very, by the skin of your teeth, you've been able to keep a black mayor in office, but does anybody think that's going to happen in the next election? You did it by the skin of your teeth. They built the new NFL stadium. Construction cranes are all over the place. And as far as they're concerned, you got downtown and midtown. And the only problem that they have with midtown is that black folks seem to own too much. So that's why they're saying you don't belong here. They only talk like that to people who own things. Now, if you were just floating through, it would be different, but you all own stuff in that area. Not a lot, not a whole lot, but the mere fact that you do, what that means is that an act of violence committed against you is not going to disinherit you from the land. So first and foremost, it begins with the harassment. But brother, he was most likely in his car listening to some right-wing Nazi on the radio. That was just about the time Rush Limbaugh gets off and the next guy comes on. He's gotten his fix for the day and he feels motivated. I gotta do something. I can't sit on this. I'm not a good American if I don't stand up and say something. And by the way, I want to point out this dichotomy right here. Whenever you tell people, whenever white folks say that why isn't there a White History Month, and we respond by telling them, well, when you say American, you said white, they sit up here and want to argue about that. And yet, when they say we're taking our country back, all of a sudden the real thing comes out. Yeah, I mean, if we were all Americans and if American was not a euphemism for white, then why is it we're taking our country back is always pointed at non-white people? You know exactly what you mean by that, and we as black people have to know what they mean. But understand something. This, what you just encountered, I don't know if you listen to Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity or Michael Savage or Mark Levin or the rest of them. I don't know if you listen to them. I don't know if you even think about them. But understand one thing, brother. You may not think about the racists, but the racists are thinking about you. And you just found that out point blank. You're just walking along minding your business. And the next time that some white supremacist tries to tell you that, or some coon, which is the real problem we run into, they're always running around talking about, man, white folks ain't thinking about us. Man, they ain't worried about us. That's coon talk.
I know. Oh, my God.
That's coon talk.
Oh, my God. You hit it dead on the head.
That's coon talk. They spend nothing but the majority of their time thinking about us, because when they refer to, quote, losing their country, they're not referring to losing it to white people. They're not referring to losing it to the rich, who are white people. They're referring to losing it to you, which means that the majority of their day has to be spent making sure you don't get anything, that you don't gain any leverage of any kind. That's coon talk. To say that they're not thinking about you. You can't turn on your television that's majority white in a majority black city. Whenever they make one of those TV shows, whether it's Chicago PD, the majority of the cast is white. All these television shows they make in these cities when the majority of the city is black, but the cast is all white. They do nothing but think about you. They don't do anything but sit around and plot against you. You couldn't have the judicial system that works the way that it does in its normal, mechanized, run-of-the-mill, routine fashion. The routine fashion of the American judicial system working is always penalizing, imprisoning, and killing black people, whether you committed a crime or not. That can't be routine if these folk ain't thinking about you all the time. It's not possible for it to work that way on a routine basis if they weren't. They think about us all the time.
It damn sure did seem like he was thinking about it for a long time. I mean, he jumped out that car like I swear I thought he had a Mossberg or something. He jumped out that truck like a G. I mean, for a minute there, I was like, wow, I can't even believe he had the balls to do it.
Now that is a George Zimmerman in the making. And Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity will tell you that those people don't exist. Jared Taylor will tell you those people don't exist. And if he did do something, they would say, well, he's just crazy. Never mind what he's been feeding his mind on the radio and what his friends and family have been saying to him for weeks, months, and years. Maybe even decades. Never mind that. We're just going to ignore that. But understand something. In their heads, Pat Tillman, when he left the NFL to join the military, what did he say his reasoning was? He said his reasoning was he didn't feel like he had done anything with his life. But I wanted someone to ask him, you hadn't done anything for whom? For whom do you feel you haven't done anything that joining the military is going to give you? And if he says for America, we already established who America is. This guy jumped out of his truck in Atlanta because you all remember Lawrence Fishburne in School Days. Wake up! He's at the end of the film screaming it at the top of his lungs. Wake up! That was what you just encountered. That white man was having a wake up moment to the white citizenry of Atlanta. In his own mind, in his own way, in his heart, That was supposed to be a wake-up moment. You want to talk about stay woke? That's their idea of stay woke. Our idea of stay woke is putting up a Facebook post and a tweet. His idea of stay woke is find the first random black person you can and incite the race war. I'll let you have the last word.
Thinking about afterward. All I kept on thinking about after me and him got to fighting was, what if that was my son? What if that was my 17-year-old boy walking somewhere trying to just live life, and that happened? These people are dangerous out here. We can't allow them any more leeway than they already have already.
And we need to take the leeway that they've currently got. You have got to stay vigilant, stay vigilant, stay vigilant. This is not rhetoric. This is not hyperbole. We are behind enemy lines. I just made a trailer where Jared Taylor is sitting here telling you that America was founded by Europeans to be an extension of Europe. That is Jared Taylor saying it. So by its very definition, you are born behind enemy lines. Now, if he believes that, he's saying, I'm a white person, I'm telling you, this is what this place is. It's supposed to be an extension of Europe. Not an extension of the world. It's supposed to be an extension of a place that benefits us. You're the one who doesn't belong here. And then we get surprised when somebody actually acts on it. Which is the ultimate sign that we have committed malfeasance against our children. Because we're raising our children to dance the Dougie and to twerk and to swallow Tide Pods and all this other foolery in order to avoid the Jared Taylors and that guy who jumped out of that truck. And if that had been your son, that could have been a Zimmerman moment. And don't you think for a second that there have been a number of those types of attacks on black teenagers since Trayvon Martin. And it will accelerate and it will continue.
I thought he had a gun.
Well, that's not the real
he had a
brother.
gun.
But brother, that's not the real question. The real question isn't did he have a gun? The real question is did you?
Yeah.
Or are you just assuming? Because let me tell you something. I just got to say this straight out like it is. Niggas in Atlanta are bull jiving, and I said it just like that. I'm at the Lenox Mall. I saw this oily, juicy, thick Negro. You all know who he is. He's up there on the second floor. He's wearing all black all the time with these spandex. From the back, he looks like a female. Sashaying, swinging his hips till he turns around. It's like, oh, what'd you say? I didn't narrow it down. You're right. I didn't. That's what I'm saying. He was wearing black and spandex stretch pants and a baseball cap. I got video of him. This Negro belongs on a pole somewhere at the strip club. You go through the mall at Lenox Mall, and don't sit up here. This is another damn thing. This is not a Lenox Mall or a Buckhead situation for the liars out there. Go downtown and you'll see the same damn thing. Go to Decatur and you see the same damn thing. Don't go to College Park and you see the same damn thing. Don't try to act like this is just relegated to Buckhead, to Peachtree, to downtown. No, it's not relegated to that. This is all over Atlanta. You see this. Negroes with painted hair. Grown men with butt implants. This is everywhere. This is all over Atlanta. You Negroes are living in denial because you don't want to admit that your situation is as messed up as it is.
Excuse me, Jason Black. It's gay kids down there. I mean, it's gay kids. I cut their hair. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's gay couples with the gay baby. They come in the shop. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. I mean,
we are not on a war footing. If you go to the MAC makeup store, I'm sorry, Victoria's Secret. If you go to Victoria's Secret in Atlanta, there's almost as many men in the store as there are women. And I'm not talking about men walking around with their girlfriends. There's dudes walking in there got the pink bags When you're walking by in the mall, I took some pictures of it. These dudes look like Migos sitting up here rummaging through the girls' underwear right there at the front opening of the store. Right there at the front opening of the store, 3 guys. This is what we're concentrating on. While these white males are concentrating on colonizing, or in this case, recolonizing that city. And Atlanta is a particularly sore point for them. It's a particular sore spot because Atlanta was supposed to go to hell after black people took over, and Atlanta is bigger, more prosperous, and better than it's ever been. And the white folk are like, hey, this ain't gonna work. This place was supposed to go to hell. And it's supposed to turn out like Detroit. It's supposed to do that, and that didn't happen. So now they're like, hey, we gotta take this thing back now before Negroes get serious. So yes, every morning that they get up, this is a super, super sore spot for them. That, yeah, you can drive by the Westin Hotel downtown, but black folk have more control than you're comfortable with. In Atlanta, we still don't really run it much. But what we do run, that's way uncomfortable for them. Way uncomfortable. Very, very, very much so. So this is a sore point to them, and a sore spot for them coming and going. And black folk in Atlanta are bull jiving. As a group, they are playing around. They are not serious. And they're not taking the threat seriously. Nope. Black people are not taking this situation seriously at all. All you got to do is just walk around there for 15 minutes and you will see how unseriously they are unserious about this whole situation. They're not. These people are playing with folk who ain't playing with them, brother. I'm just telling you right now. Everybody sits up here and talks about like the guy who went to the football game with his Confederate flag stuff and then shot 2 cops because they would not allow him to practice white supremacy. He went to a football game in Middle America. He got kicked out of the game for trying to practice white supremacy and then kills 2 police officers. And you came I did hear about that. That was the kind of guy who accosted you. Right there. And what I'm saying is if black folk take these situations seriously, every single Negro in that city needs to be packing something. And it's not going to have to happen a bunch of times. All it's going to take is 1 or 2 of those suckers to run up on you the wrong way, the wrong day. And when you make an example of him, then the others will get the message. And see, this is the other problem that we have is that people, black folk are scared of that. Black people are scared of that. Whenever we get in white people's presence, our priority becomes convincing white people that we're non-threatening. That becomes our priority. Let me convince them that I'm not a threat. Yeah. And you're dealing with the most aggressive, threatening people on the planet, and you're trying to convince them you're not one. White supremacists are the most aggressive, threatening people that creation has ever seen spring forth from the firmament. And yet, we're approaching them, trying to convince them how threatening we aren't. How's that working out for us? No, wherever white people go, they create, wherever white people go, they create open carry laws. And we as black people are not behaving the same way. You know why? We got churches and barber shops. Those are our priorities, making sure people know that our religion is on point and our shoes are on point and our haircut is on point. Meanwhile, our survival game is shot to hell. And that one white man could walk in the Lenox Mall and have a damn massacre. And it'll be a bunch of Negroes with their high heels and red bottoms and skinny jeans on and their stretch pants and their colored hair hiding up under the women's bras in Victoria's Secret. Like it's Columbine High School. You're supposed to be taking control of that. You're supposed to have absolute control of it so that when the police and anybody else pull up, they understand you're on our side of town. You make no laws and no rules here. Because when you go on white folks' side of town, ain't no laws that protect you. When you show up on the white side of town, there are no laws that protect you. Not even in your majority black city. When black folk in Atlanta understand that and stop acting like listening to Outkast records somehow is somehow some substitute artificial black empowerment, when they realize that, things will change. Until right now, brother, you're sitting ducks. So let this be your warning that whether or not you ever thought about them, the white supremacists are thinking about you, whether or not you think about them at all. Now, what are you gonna do about it is the question. I'm asking you.
I'm a felon, personally. I've been taking martial arts. You know, that's the only thing that I can do. Self-defense. You know, lift it, stay in shape, eating the right things. That's the best thing that I can do, you know, personally. So that's what I've been doing. I've been taking mixed martial arts.
I've got my own thoughts about that kind of thing, but what I will tell you is there are weapons you can't have and there are weapons you can. I will just say it like that, and I'll say no more.
Well,
thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. Brothers and sisters, the race war is here. There's no other way to say that. The race war is here. And what happened to him can happen to any of you at any time. We've had one caller who's called in talking about the police pulled him over for no reason. Now this fella here, Friday, he's walking along minding his business. A random white supremacist has deputized himself to be the ethnic cleansing campaign, to be the brown shirts, for those of you who know your history. If some jackass asks you why in the world we're doing what we do at Black Channel Films, that's why. Because black folk as a group do not actually understand the situation that we're in. If you have not seen our crowdfunding for our new project, Race War, the 2 phone calls we've had so far should have made it very clear to you what that's about. Everybody should be there. Everyone should be there, because this is the very definition of not on code. Everyone should be there. If you haven't gotten involved, if you haven't seen that, you need to. Because we need places, if we had a black media that actually was representing us, it wouldn't be a problem, but we don't. We don't have one that represents us. So when the Super Bowl is sitting up here making monkeys of us, and when Hulk Hogan is calling you nigger and Paula Deen and the rest of them, we don't have an apparatus to respond with. And if these things were not important, then why do white people have CNN? If these things are not important, we need communication platforms to speak to our people and aggregate these things and to know where we stand, and to have people who are going to sit here and tell us exactly what the situation is for us. Because your parents did not tell you. I'm looking all over Facebook and I can clearly see your parents did not tell you. So right here tonight, you need to make that your agenda. The first thing that white people do when they sense trouble is they break out their checkbooks. That's the first thing they do. If that fella jumped out that truck and shot our brother out there, that's the first thing that they would have done. They would have got together and said, okay, how much do we need to raise? What did the Negro do to provoke him? What did he do to upset him? He must have done something to provoke him. Nobody would just jump out of their truck and do that. Nobody would just run up on you and do something like that. They would circle the wagons. That's an element that we're missing. Caller from 732, you're on live with the Black Channel.
Already spoke.
Okay, well, you might want to hang up now then. Caller from 508, you're on, let me put that back on hold there. Wrong one. We'll come back to you. Caller from 508, you're on live with the Black Channel.
Peace and Black first, Jason Black. I'm calling from Brockton, Massachusetts, where it is ridiculous how many
what is your name?
Patriots fans are out there.
What is your name?
Oh, my name is Kenzie.
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 All right, Kenzie, and what's on your mind?
Yes. Well, I purposely observed people's behaviors, their patterns, and when the Colin Kaepernick issue was a hotbed of controversy, especially around my way. And plenty of my colleagues, their initial thoughts before the season began was that I'm not going to watch the season. I'm not going to watch it because justice must be served. Fast forward to today, many of them, they opt to watch the Super Bowl game, go to a Super Bowl party, have a good time. The streets right now, there's like an eerie silence. And this is all in the midst of a fact in Boston that economically, the median net wealth for black families is $8. And so that, I watched Gentrified, I watched 7 a.m., and I see exactly what you're speaking about every single day, and I see the inaction that we are committing to. The negligence, the coonery is at an all-time high. Excuse me. And I find it appalling. But I wanted to get your opinion on Boston and the Boston area, if you don't mind, because in all the broadcasts that I've listened to, it's not necessarily a topic, but I would like to get your insight on it.
Boston is a mess.
To see if I'm delusional.
Okay, well, no, you're not delusional. A little long-winded, but not delusional. Boston is a mess, period. Negroes have been gentrified or getting gentrified the hell out of the place, and they are doing what they do. They're focusing on basketball. They're focusing on football. Black folk in Boston are simply trying to find a way to die peacefully. And that's what's happening in Boston. There is no effort of resistance. They're just trying to see if they can find a non-black female to snuggle up with on their way to the grave. The real question is, what are the rest of you doing? That's all. If you really want to do something productive, join our crowdfunding, help us with this project. At least we'll be somewhere near that region of the country and get the word out that the most important thing that we can be doing is not chasing shoes and not chasing sex, because when the bad guys pull up behind you, and they may be police, and as we heard from the previous caller, they may not be, but when they do, it's too late. We spend way too much time reacting to situations, being reactive, waiting until something bad happens and then saying, okay, what do we do? No, the time for us to have our game plan together is tonight. The time for us to have our act together is tonight. The time for us to be doing something is right now. That's the time for us to be doing something. If I was a white police officer who had gunned down a black male, I'd have $1 million. That is white society voting with its pocketbooks in what they believe in. And we as black people don't. Now, I know a bunch of you went to church this morning. And a bunch of you left your tithes this morning, as you do every week. And someone explain to me what you have to show for that. Tell me, after you gave the pastor his Lexus payment, what did he go out and do? We financially support things that do not assist us. We're not disciplined. And how in the world do you think Richard Spencer is eating? How do you think Jared Taylor is eating? They're doing it because their people support them. How do you think Charlottesville happened? That didn't happen without financing. Their people believe in this. And it doesn't matter how much money it costs, they believe in it. What we're finding out is what black people believe in. I'm just presenting this very simply to all of you. What do you believe in? Do you truly believe that the Trump presidency is a race war? Do you truly believe that? If you do, join us. If you don't, go back to Twitter and just hope that today is not your day. Let me know how well that works out for you. Caller from 914, you're on Live with the Black Channel. Caller from